What's going on? What's going on, everybody? It is the only sports podcast. That's right, it's the only sports podcast. I'm
We
Will.
back.
That's Casino over there. Our last podcast was 10 days ago, Casino.
Oof.
I know.
Well,
Again,
you had to cancel twice, and then I had the
Yeah.
kids out of the house one day. We had to go somewhere, all the things. So
life,
everybody, life.
Yeah, I literally was sick for all of last week. This week, I've had to go to the doctors 4 times.
I didn't know
It's
you were
just-
sick last week. I had strep last week too.
Yeah. Well, that was why last week we didn't do the second show because you literally did not have a voice. Like,
Oh
your
no,
voice was
I
gone.
didn't. My throat hurt. My throat hurt. It was like I swallowed a bag of something.
Yeah. And then I had to take my 2-year-old to the doctor. He had like an ear infection. And then my wife's grandma lives with us, so she was also sick. And then my 11-year-old's been sick, so obviously I got sick. It's just that time of the year. And then throw in kids and doctors for the fucking 2 car
and work.
accidents I was in. Yeah, and work all around this. Like, what a pain in the ass. But we're back, and we're doing our Week 15 picks today. We're going to talk about Draymond Green and all the insanity going on with that. We're going to talk about the Ohtani contract.
Ohtani.
We're going to talk about, obviously, last night's game between the Chargers and Raiders, which
wasn't a game. We both picked the Raiders.
Speaking of, you and I before the game were like, if the Chargers don't win this, we're done with the Chargers. Like, Chargers have to win this game, and then they get blown out. I think it was they said on the broadcast it was the second highest points ever by halftime. I believe it was 42-0, the second most points ever scored in a half in like NFL history, which is how the Raiders did that, I don't know, but we'll talk about that game when we get to Week 15. But first, Casino, because we did not have a show earlier this week, let's talk about the hot topics in Week 14, starting with our picks. This week was brutal, or last week, I should say, Week 14 was brutal for our picks.
I think I got 2 right.
You got 6 right, so not far off. I got 7
It felt like
right.
2. It felt like 2.
I know. I got 7 right. The only difference we had was you picked the Eagles, I picked the Cowboys. But that was, again, reverse jinx. And I'll tell you what, spoiler alert for Week 15 picks, I am not picking against the Eagles the rest of the season. Reverse jinx has not worked. And if they do not win every game the rest of the season going into the playoffs, it will be panic time. But we'll get to talking about future games. Let's talk about the games of the past. Let's talk about the 2 games I wanted to talk about, and then we'll get into, obviously, the biggest news of Week 14, which is what happened in the Chiefs-Bills game. But the 2 games before that, your thoughts on a game I know you and I both watched, which was Ravens-Rams. Thoughts on that game, Casino, and just how it ends on a insane punt return touchdown that had about, give or take, 47 penalties to make that happen. I mean,
well, I mean, we kind of talked about it. I like the Ravens a lot. I expect them to win. But the Rams have been playing very well. Stafford has been playing very well. And he had a great game. Almost 300 yards,
he looked
3
great
touchdowns.
In that game too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He looked real good. But I mean, Lamar Jackson also had a really good game. He did have the 1 INT, but for the most part, my kid's nervous about the TV stuff. But really, really good game for both of them. Cooper Kupp coming back. He looked great. Odell actually showed up for something, which was cool for him. But I don't really care. I don't care for Odell. That's that. How that game ended was horrifyingly awful. All the things, any negative thing you can throw at that game. I was looking basically off that punt return. If you guys didn't see it, the Ravens won on a walk-off punt return. Um, it's every time there's a kickoff or a punt return, I look for one thing, not holding or anything like that, illegal formation, whatever. I'm looking for block in the backs from start to finish. The entire time, I'm just looking for a block in the back, holding my breath, especially when it's my team doing a good punt return. I'm just holding my breath, and because it's like a 50-50 chance every time that there's going to be at least one called or not called block in the back. And
Yeah.
wow, was there some missed. There was some missed. The first two that I saw, I was like, okay, that could have been called, but they didn't. That could have been called, but they didn't. Okay. Then the third one was outrageous, just egregious. The dude was like standing there and he just gets linebackered right into the back of the head, just knocked out. Um, that was awful. And how they didn't call that one. I didn't even see the hold you were talking about. Because
Dude,
I was,
they're
again, I
the
was just
most
looking for the one
egregious.
thing. The
Yeah. The most egregious one to me is the one that's right when he goes to turn along the sidelines or whatever. The one guy that can stop him, I mean, literally just gets his entire, you can see the guy holding him and his entire jersey is like stretching. And he would have been the guy that, could have probably pushed him out of bounds or did something. But again, that call is in Baltimore. It's not, you're not going to get that call. And then if you did get that call, everybody would be complaining and bitching, which is foreshadowing to the Chiefs Bills game we will talk about. But have you, again, we started this podcast during the last NFL season. So this is technically our second NFL season doing this podcast. I don't remember officiating even being as bad as it is this year last year. Like, I don't remember it being a big talking
right.
point.
No,
This one, it just
we
seems
did
like
talk about
every
it
big
a
game.
bit last year, but it's not like, yeah, and again, to me it's turning into um like the other sports with like the mainly like the NBA, the NHL, where there could be a foul on almost every play, and where the refs are choosing, they get to choose what they, if they want to call it or not. Like there's like that I watch NHL more. Like in the first 5 minutes, first 5-10 minutes, how that game's, they're gonna either be very loose on the calls or very rough on the calls. And but what I
Yes.
appreciate about the NHL is they typically 95% of the time they stick to that sentiment. It's either they're calling everything or they're not calling shit. And same with the NBA. They're calling everything or they're not calling anything. And I really feel like the NFL, at least it used to be where you knew what a foul, you knew what a penalty was, regardless if you liked it or not. They called it correct. I would say 90% of the time they would get all their calls smack on according to the rules. And now it's just gone to a gray area because they keep changing the rules and changing the rules. It's in a gray area now where you don't know, anything could be called at any time.
Well, not
It's
only
very
that, it's
bothersome.
it's literally, and we'll get to this when we talk about the Chiefs Bills game, but it's not only any call can be called at any time. It's the same call that hasn't been called all game is all of a sudden called towards the end of the game. And then it's
Right.
just, why was this not a penalty for the first 58 minutes of this game, but the last 2 minutes, all of a sudden it's a penalty that, oh, I don't know, like loses a team of Super Bowl or something like that. Like, I don't know. Like, that's just a random hypothetical that I'm just pulling out of thin air.
No, no, that's very true.
But the other game, but also last little bit on the Ravens Rams game, are the Ravens, with what we've seen from the Chiefs and obviously injuries to the other contenders and then the Bills kind of being not as good as we thought they would be, are the Ravens the clear number one team to beat in the AFC?
Yeah, I would say so.
I think so too. And I don't even think it's close. Like, I think if they played any AFC team right now, I think they would like womp them. Like, I don't know who, I mean, from what we've seen with the Chiefs, they don't have a, what is it? They don't have a viable weapon. And it seems like Travis Kelce, age finally caught up to him because he just doesn't look like himself the second half of the season.
Age
It's,
and love.
yeah, he's using all that energy going down in the Swifties. You know what I'm saying, Casino? You know what I'm saying? Chief on the streets, Swifty in the sheets.
There it is.
You know,
There it is.
that's what I was searching for. I got to it eventually.
That was good.
But uh Cowboys Eagles is the other game we wanted to talk about before we get to Chiefs Bills. It was honestly exactly what I thought it would be. In the the beginning of the season, I knew we would split with the Cowboys. It would be we win at home, they would win at their place, and then we would lose to the 49ers because that was their fucking Super Bowl. I didn't expect both those games to be blowouts, but I definitely expected them to be losses. I think the 49ers game is one of those ones where if they played them again in the playoffs, I would be nervous. I think the Cowboys, if they played them again in the playoffs, I think they beat them. That game was not nearly as bad as the 49ers game. The 49ers game, it was like, what the fuck are we doing? The Cowboys game was like, everybody's fumbling. Devontae Smith and AJ Brown both dropped touchdowns that were literally like, it looked like Jalen Hurts ran up to them and placed the ball in their hands and they just dropped them. So that was a game where it was like, nothing's going our way. Cowboys are at home. They're invincible.
Sorry, I still got my cough from last week.
But as a Eagles fan, they play the Seahawks, the Cardinals, and the Giants twice. So you went through the gauntlet. You went 5-2.
The Seahawks will be the tough game.
The Seahawks on Monday night will be a game that I think will be close. If the other three, the Cardinals and then the 2 Giants games, if you do not blow out the Giants once and blow out the Cardinals, you should blow out the Cardinals specifically because their head coach cost you a fucking Super Bowl by not being able to literally play defense for 1 quarter, let alone an entire game. Like, the Eagles players should take revenge out on Murr from Impractical Jokers, who's now Gannon from the Cardinals head coach. They should take their hatred of losing the Super Bowl out on Gannon on that Cardinals team. So if this Eagles team, I think Monday night's game will be close, but I think they win. But when it comes to Cardinals and Giants twice, they need to blow out the Giants once and they need to blow out the Cardinals, or it's time. If they lose any of those 4 remaining games, it's fucking panic mode. I'm not in panic mode right now because they are pretty much where I thought they would be this season, but they're actually doing better because I thought they would have 5 losses at this point because I really thought they would lose that Bills game. But yeah, Casino. Thoughts on Cowboys and Eagles?
Dak, dare I say, has impressed a little bit. He has not turned over the ball as much as, he was towards the beginning of the season and what he did last season. So, good on him. He's worked on that. I'm still over the whole Cowboys are the Super Bowl favorites. I still don't even have them. No. They're good. They're gonna win a game, maybe 2 in the playoffs, depending on where they get with their seeding. But I still think it would be tough for them to get through the Eagles again, the Niners, and I'll be honest, I do like Detroit still. So that's
they do play Detroit,
right?
And again,
that's gonna be a fun one. I'm gonna watch.
Well, I think
put you down.
When it comes to the Cowboys,
and I know Detroit just lost to the Bears, but just let that was something. That was something else.
If what we're really going to see from the Cowboys, and I've said this, if Dak Prescott looks good in the Cowboys-Bills game, Cowboys-Dolphins, and then Lions-Cowboys game, which those 3 games are the next 3 on the schedule, and like they start hitting their gauntlet basically this week, which is a 3-week, trip. I really do think, again, they did not look good in that Seahawks Cowboys game. I say they didn't look good, even though they scored 41 points, but their defense gave up 35 points to a Seattle Seahawks offense that has just looked vanilla and stagnant all season. And then obviously they beat the Eagles by 20 points. But again, everything that could go wrong for the Eagles did go wrong in that game. They were on a short week. As an Eagles fan, I can make every excuse in the book. But the Eagles also beat the Cowboys. Now, again, the tail of the tape for this Cowboys team this entire season has been difference between home and away. Away, they're a different team. At home, they're a juggernaut. Well, it looks like at this point, again, I think Eagles win out, and I would be impressed, and I don't think it's impossible for the Cowboys to win out, but I think they at least lose one, if not two of the remaining games against the Bills, Dolphins, or Lions. So I think they win one of those games, maybe two, but two of them, they're on the road. So I don't know if the Cowboys could finish the season undefeated. Obviously, they win the division and they're going to have a home playoff game, and then they're really dangerous. But if Cowboys lose one or two games, which I think they will, and
Right.
Eagles win out, which I think they will, that means the Cowboys will not have a home.
That's what I was kind of saying. They'll win one or two playoff games. So like if they were the seed, the number one seed coming out of that division, I can see them winning one and making it to the to the NFC championship.
Yeah.
Right. But if they don't, I can see them winning two and getting to the NFC still. So I just have trouble seeing them getting to the Super Bowl.
As of right now, heading into week 15, if the Super Bowl is not 49ers versus Ravens, I would legitimately be shocked. Right? Like that seems to be the course that we're heading towards.
Go Ravens.
Yeah, the conspiracy theory, colors for the logo match the Ravens and 49ers.
Right.
So
I always go against the Ravens normally because, they were the Ray Lewis days going against Brady, and that was always fun. And so I don't like seeing the Ravens do well, but in this case, and growing up, the Niners were always my second team, but I just can't stand the Niners right now. They just bug me, and I like Lamar Jackson a lot. So
that's true. The only thing I would say is we've never seen Purdy in the playoffs because the only playoff game we ever saw, he got knocked out of immediately.
He's so good. He's good.
Yeah.
Man.
Lamar Jackson, who we've seen in the playoffs, has not looked good in the playoffs. Neither is Dak Prescott.
Lamar Jackson's pretty much always hurt going into that game.
Yeah, that's true. But the only two quarterbacks we've seen of this crop of quarterbacks going into the playoffs is Mahomes and Hurts, right? We've seen those two be elite in the playoffs. So maybe a rematch of last year. I don't know, Casino. But speaking of Mahomes, look at that transition. Transition King is back. Let's talk
what
about
time? We've talked for 20 minutes now. All right. So the next 45 minutes. Here we go.
I said when this whole debacle happened, I was like, this is a 45-minute discussion.
That's why I said that. Yes.
It is. This is. Oh man, there's so much meat on this bone, Casino. So obviously, since it's already Friday, everybody saw what happened Sunday, which was the Chiefs lose to the Bills. After the Chiefs wide receiver Kadarius Toney lined up offsides on a play that was a pass to Travis Kelce that he lateraled back to Toney that was then a touchdown that got called back. Then Mahomes had two more tries on 3rd and 4th down, which he did not convert. And then Mahomes on the sideline after this sequence of events when the Chiefs are losing the game goes crazy on a referee. He has a insane press conference afterwards. Nobody is blaming. The weird thing is Mahomes and Andy Reid, none of them were saying it was not a penalty. They were saying that type of penalty should not be called in that situation, and they got no warning that penalty was going to be called.
Yeah.
Which is two things that are really weird to me because
they basically just told that the NFL helps them. They cheat. That's exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm not. So the whole. All right, my turn. My turn. My turn. My turn. All right. So few things that was just the absolute worst is I. So you described what happened. Mahomes also stated in his press conference that Tony didn't have any. He wasn't involved in that play. Like he had no outcome in that play. Yes, he did. He was the one to take the lateral uh, from Kelsey and take it in. So that means him being offsides, and if he had a better, like, just if he had the jump on his defender, he was able to get open. Yes, the ball had already gone to Kelsey, and everybody started moving over to him, and then Kelsey threw it over because now he was open. So I mean, kudos to Kelsey. I've seen like that. That was a great play. That was a great play. But it's to say that he wasn't part of the play. Well, he was part of the play. The other thing that I absolutely could not handle was in during the press conferences. He's like, yeah, you wait till the last minute to make a call like that. I've played 7 years in the NFL and I've never had offensive offsides called. Well, yeah, because they've always been helping you. And also Andy Reid talking about it, and he was like, normally this bothered me. I lost a lot of respect for Andy Reid when he said this. He was like, so normally, if they're lined off offsides, they let us know so we could get them back on sides before the play is called. That's not their job. That's your coach's job. That's you as a coach, your offensive coordinator, whoever, some random dude that's maybe his only job is to be where the ball is on the line of scrimmage and to be like, he is lined up offsides. Coach, tell him to get back. Like, even if that there might be a guy, I don't know, whatever. But still, if there's not, there should be now. That's not the ref's job to go up to you and you go, hey, your guy's lined up off sides. That's like the ref going up saying, hey, you have an illegal formation. You have 12 men on the field. No, they don't get to fucking tell you to do that. Like, they don't need to give you warning.
Well,
The
also,
player needs to know. The player's looking down the line. He knows where the fucking ball is. He knows where he's lined up. He knows it's offensive offsides.
Well, also in every NFL game, when you see the wide receivers at the line turn and look at the sideline, it's always them checking with the referee to make sure they're on the line, right? You can see in that play, and people have tried to slow it down and make it seem like, oh, Kadarius Toney did do that, and the ref just didn't tell him. Kadarius Toney looks to the sideline for a half a second and then looks back. You never see him get confirmation or even look long enough to be signaled like you're on the line. So clearly this is what you're talking about, where it's like this happens every game, every offensive snap.
It's player responsibility.
And it's also not like his big toe was over the line and it was a tiny little sliver. It's like he's almost a full yard past the line of scrimmage. Like, it's not even a debate. Everybody, this is my problem with this. Everybody agrees it was a penalty. So, like, why is this an issue? Like, this bullshit. And then again, also, we've talked about after the Super Bowl, after that Bengals game, after all these other insanely ticky-tack bullshit plays or penalties, all these ticky-tack bullshit penalties that were called in favor of the Chiefs. Never once heard Mahomes or Andy Reid bitch about the refereeing when it didn't benefit them. So the second it
do you rarely see the other team who was called against bitch?
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, I've never heard Mahomes, I've never heard Andy Reid address the Bradbury penalty in the Super Bowl, because again, that is the literal exact same thing that happened in this game. The only difference was one ended a week 13 game, one ended the Super Bowl. So it's like, for Mahomes to be that much of a whiny bitch about the refereeing is also ironic, coming from the guy who every single play in the game, you see him bitching and doing his dramatics where when he's getting tackled to the ground, he's literally falling and like signaling to the refs before he hits the ground. Like, why is this person touching me? Like, again, we've seen
Well, here's
Brady
a
on
lot of
like,
quarterbacks. See, a lot of quarterbacks do that. A lot of quarterbacks do that.
yeah,
Even the great Tom Brady has done that. Quarterbacks do that. I mean, it is part of the game of trying to get it called. I referenced this at work to somebody the other day. In soccer, that is part of the art of the game. Do I like it? Do I agree with it? No. It's annoying, and it's just like, suck it up, you're a professional athlete. Even when Brady did, I was like, okay, Brady, like, you didn't get the call. Like, okay. It's like, or you got the call, and I'm like, cool, it helped us, but you didn't need to do that. But
yeah,
like in soccer, they did it like it's part of their game to try to get the call to help their team out. Hockey does it, basketball does it, every sport does that. Um, but the difference was, and the difference is I haven't seen anybody go off like Mahomes did. I'm never, especially when you're the face of the face of the franchise, face of the freaking NFL, and you act like that.
yeah. And especially so egregious again for a play everyone agrees is a penalty. So like, so he wanted, and then that thing where it was just like, oh well, he threw the flag, and then like he shouldn't have threw the flag because it took away the greatness of what was a Travis Kelce play. He threw the flag immediately. It's not like he waited till after the play happened to
Right.
then throw the flag and
He
just
had
like,
you watch it, he had his hand on the flag, waiting for the
yeah,
play to be called. As soon as it was snapped, it was out.
yeah. So then, and it's
It
also,
wasn't like one of those late calls that have been happening for the Chiefs where it was like 3, 4, 5 seconds after the play, and then there's like, "Oh, yeah, I'll
oh
throw that
yeah,
flag."
there was one in the 49ers Eagles game where a play happened and then it was like 10 seconds after the play was finished and then it was like offsides on Josh Sweat, and it was just like, how can you call offsides 15 seconds after the play's already over? Like, if that was the case, then it was like, all right, something's fishy here. But it was like, and again, it was second down. It's not like this was a 4th and 10 play to end the game. They still had 2 more plays. And then what happened was, thank you. And then what happened was they got shut down the next 2 plays. But again, after letting this gestate for almost a week or whatever, I still agree with what we were talking about immediately after it happened, which was, this to me just like makes me now, like, it devalues Mahomes in my eyes. It devalues it because I feel like it's just such a bitch move. It really is. Like, just like being like, I know it was a penalty, but you can't call
Yeah,
it in
the
that
fact that he
situation.
agrees that it was a penalty is
It's
just
it's like, then what are you bitching about? You said it was a fucking penalty. It's like all the Eagles players were like, yeah, it was a hold. Like, and then they never talked about it again. Mahomes was just like, yeah, it was a blah, 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 but they shouldn't have called that in that situation. They weren't calling it all game. And then it's just like, you just won a Super Bowl by that same
that ruins
notion
his hall of
and never said
that ruins
shit
his
about it. It ruins his what?
right. That ruins his Hall of Fame career. Hall of Fame career. It ruins his like, that was another thing that he said. I'm just like, dude, like Travis Kelce's career. And I'm like, shut the fuck up, man. Like, no, it doesn't. Travis
Yeah, like,
Kelce,
oh,
he's got the numbers, he's got the stats. Like, he's going to the Hall of Fame. This, he's like, that play will never be shown. No, it won't be probably. You know what? It doesn't fucking matter. Like, if
it's
you're in the
also
Hall of Fame, you go
like,
to the Hall of Fame.
what won't be shown? The lateral that led to a touchdown in a week 13 game? Like, yeah, it even if it was true, it would have been a 3-second highlight in his entire highlight reel that if you took it out, people would be like, oh, wasn't there like a lateral that was supposed to, like, it's not like this, like, oh my god, we've never seen anything like this. It was a lateral. Like, it's like, calm down. Like, with this whole, like, you can't call a play if on a flag on a play that is cool. And then it's just like, I wish that was a rule, but it's not. So fuck off. Fuck
And
off, Chiefs.
another
Ugh.
thing that I absolutely like lost another more respect. The respect that I have remaining for Mahomes was lost pretty much when he went up when I saw the video of him going up to Josh Allen afterwards
Oh,
and
I
like
know. Like, why
Josh
is he bitching
Allen
to
was like, "That
him?
was one of the worst fucking calls I've ever seen in my career," and I was or NFL history or whatever he said, and Josh just, like, pats him on the chest and walks out. I told you, I'm like, I didn't really I've never hated Josh Allen, I never loved Josh Allen. I talk about him, he's good, he's bad sometimes, whatever, um, but I got a lot more respect for Josh Allen now because he just like an older brother that knew that his younger brother was throwing a tantrum. He just goes up to him and like pats him in the chest and walks away. And I was like, that is fan fucking tastic. Like he was just like, okay, Bubby. Like,
One of
oh man.
again, that was one of the worst calls ever when everybody agrees it's a penalty. Like, even the James Bradbury one, it's like one of those ones where it's like, yeah, it's a penalty, but you don't call it there. Like, how is that not any different from this? Again, this is why I always bitch and
Right. But
never
you know
like,
what? You don't call the reason, but we have justification for not calling the Bradbury one, and that was because they didn't call that contact the entire game. There's justification for that one. There's you know, that's how the game was played the entire time, and we had talked about that where you set a standard at the beginning of the game, which they did. They were gonna let some things go. And, and then with the Bradbury one, that's the same amount of contact that's been happening all game, and then you make that call, let alone it being overthrown or whatever, uncatchable. But there was the standard set of how they were going to call the game. So that one was more egregious, in my opinion, than and should
oh,
have been
yeah.
complained on more, but they didn't. Than this one because this wasn't one like where it's a questionable thing. Like he was offside. It was a blatant one that can't be called. It wasn't like, oh, they're letting holding go pretty lenient on the holding this game, or they're calling the holding really tight this game. This one was this one's cut and dry. This is you either are lined up offsides or you're not lined up offsides.
Well, it's
And
also by
he
your
was.
same
So
Yeah,
yeah.
by your same logic, it's not like that's where he was lining up the whole game and they weren't calling it and just letting him get away with it. And then finally, in that moment, they were like, "You've lined up like this the whole game, but now we're going to call a penalty." He didn't line up like that the whole game.
Exactly.
Like, it was like this was, and again, we've talked about the Chiefs and just like how their wide receivers keep fucking them. This is legitimately the third game this season that Kadarius Toney alone has lost them a game. So again, when we
Right.
talk about the Mahomes legacy and all this kind of stuff, like we need to put in context, like he was literally drafted to an already playoff team with all the pieces in place to make him great. And then when you take all those things away, he's a worse quarterback than he was prior to this. So then when people talk about Brock Purdy and all this shit where it's just like, well, he's in the perfect situation and he has all these weapons and he has all this, like he's a game manager and like all this kind of stuff. It's just like, yeah, when quarterbacks are put in really good positions and they're a good quarterback, they become a great quarterback. When they are put in these situations where everything is going their way and they just need to be a good quarterback, they're elevated to great. Like, why can we say that for Patrick Mahomes, but not Brock Purdy? As if it's just like Alex Smith, also with the Chiefs, had some pretty damn good seasons when in other situations and systems, he was not as good of a quarterback. Am I saying Mahomes and Brock Purdy are on the same, what is it, level? No, but I'm saying I don't know why we just automatically, it's like with Herbert, where it's just like he's a great quarterback in a bad situation, so we give him none of the blame. Well, Mahomes was a great quarterback in a great situation, and for some reason, that means we just give him 100% of the credit. And then when all that stuff goes away and he has statistically his worst season, it's just like, oh, well, yeah, because it's not his fault, it's everybody else's. And then it's just like, I don't get why we do that. That annoys the shit out of me. Like, you can't give Brock Purdy any credit whatsoever because he's in a good system. But when it's a great quarterback in a great system, that also just means how great the quarterback is. Like that makes no sense to me whatsoever. Ugh. Anything else on this casino, or you want to move on?
Oh no, we can move on. So yeah, I just, as you saw, I just left the studio trying to see if that was my connection, but it's got to either be the stream or your side because
Uh, I
I'm
mean, we got
crushing
full
it over
bars
here
right
on my
now.
side. Yeah, same.
Yeah, I mean,
It has to be.
so
Then
maybe it
it
was
has to
just a
be.
hiccup.
It has to be
Uh,
the stream. Anyway,
but let's move on to
yeah, we
the
can move on.
next
Oh, I
topic.
do have a question for you though. I mean, because I touched on
Yes.
it a little bit, but uh, did you lose respect for Andy Reid?
Uh, I feel like I lost respect for Andy Reid for him being for again doing the thing of like I've coached a lot of football and I've never had that penalty called against me, and then it's just like okay, but but again, everybody agrees it's a penalty. So why the fuck does that matter? Like it's just like if that rule doesn't matter, then why doesn't Tony just run to the end zone and just stand there and wait for the ball to be hiked? Like there's a fucking reason there's a line that both sides stand behind. So if your player is past the line, if it hasn't been called before, that means you had smart enough players or you taught them to be smart enough to stand behind the line that you have to stand behind from Pop Warner through high school, through college, through the NFL. Like it's the most basic rule of football is to stand behind the invisible line. Like,
You're so
so
angry,
for
your entire screen's shaking, man.
I know. But for him to be like, well, that play's never been called against me, it's just like, yeah, that solidifies the point that Kadarius Toney is a liability on your team and costing you games, which he has done already this season. The one of the worst teams in the league, the Giants, literally let this player go because they did not think he was good enough to be on one of the worst teams in the NFL. So now he's on your team, and surprise, surprise, he's costing you games. Like
Yeah,
we're acting like this was Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce who made this penalty. No, it was a wide receiver liability who's been a wide receiver liability all season. Like it seems pretty cut and dry to me. So I didn't lose respect for him. It just kind of was one of those things where it was just like, yeah, you saying that makes it worse for him, not like better for, or not like a slam against the league. You get what I'm saying? Like it
right.
just like comes off counterproductive. But let's jump over to a thing we rarely talk about in December, Casino, which is baseball.
What?
And we are talking about baseball because Shohei Ohtani
Shohei.
Shohei, thank you. Shohei Ohtani finally left the Los Angeles, which I fucking hate, Los Angeles Angels, and went to the other Los
Just call them
Angeles
the Anaheim
teams.
Angels.
I know. I hate when they do that. Like the San Diego Chargers is a much cooler name than the Los Angeles Chargers. But he went from one LA team to another and is now signed with the Los Angeles Dodgers in a 10-year, $700 million contract where he will only be taking a annual salary of $2 million and get the rest of his contract in the back end. Either I don't think it'll be one lump sum. I think it'll be a Bobby what's his name? Bobby Bonilla.
Hmm.
I can never say his fucking name. The Mets guy who gets $2 million every year because of an insane contract he signed.
Yeah, so yeah, he
Thought
defers 68 million of his annual $70 million salary
so
for
what
10 years of for 700 million.
yeah, Bobby Bonilla. Bonilla. I don't know how to
And
I
he's
know
yeah,
I'm
he'll
saying
be
his name
so
wrong.
overall it'll be he's going to be deferring like 90%, 97% of his earnings until after this deal is done. Um, and which will be, and you were right, as you were saying, the remaining $680 million will be paid to him. But it's a 10-year thing in between 2034 to 2043. Dude's set for life. He's done.
Well,
Like
also
so yeah, it's not one lump sum, but I mean that's pretty much a lump sum. Like you're what is that? That's probably like close to 80 million dollars a year for something like that. I don't know,
yeah,
bad
and
math.
that's not including all of his endorsements here and especially all of his endorsements in Japan, where, like when it comes to overseas
Oh, 60, it
stars,
was
like,
yeah, 68. Yeah, 68 million
yeah,
dollars a year for 10 years. Like, yeah. And that's not, yeah, it's not even touching his endorsements, dude. I mean, but he's an amazing baseball player. Yes, he's had the surgery multiple times with his arm for pitching, but you like you saw it with last year when they stopped him from pitching while they let that heal, he was still DHing. He was still hitting the ball and he was still crushing it. To have a player that is a lockdown, one of the best pitchers in the league, on top of also being one of the best hitters in the league. He's literally doing everything that you need in a baseball game by himself.
yeah,
And nothing against the Angels and or Mike Trout for staying with the Angels, but the Angels, they don't do enough to they don't pad their roster enough and do things enough to make sure that they are going to win. They don't spend the money. Yeah, they have a few great players. I mean, with both Trout and Ohtani on that team, like that's an amazing combo right there. But you're not going to win Major League Baseball with just two guys. This is not the NBA. This is not NHL. You need more than two players. Um,
well, it was that the Angels just became that meme where the meme was Mike Trout and Otani would do something historic that had never been done before in baseball, and then the Angels would lose like 10-6. And you'd be like, how the fuck is it possible that they have two of the best baseball players, maybe when all is said and done, ever on their team, and they're still barely getting into the wild card and then just getting annihilated in the playoffs or not even reaching the playoffs? And it's just like, how can you strike gold twice and then still just surround them with, a I'm trying to think of oh, what's that fucking damn it, this is gonna be a good joke, Casino. They struck gold twice, but they just surrounded them twice with what's that thing where it's like a jewel, but it's like fake. The
um,
joke's one. The joke's I'm
yeah,
trying to think turquoise. A
there it is.
turquoise. Yeah. Like it fell flat, Casino. Much like the Angels when they had both Mike Trout and Otani, which my question is, do you think Mike Trout finally leaves the Angels, or do you just think he's one of those guys, and there's nothing wrong with this guy, it's just guy that would rather have money than success?
Yeah, no, Trout. I mean, he made that clear with that deal for Anaheim, man. He Trout. You were cutting out. You were talking about Trout, right?
Yeah, would he rather, you think he
No, no, he's
leaves, or
already
you think
made.
he's a money over success guy?
Oh, I wouldn't just say money over success. I think he just likes playing for the Angels. He's one of those players. They're not in it for the success. Obviously, he's going to get paid, but he enjoys being in LA. He enjoys being the guy in LA. So yeah, I mean, yeah, that's kind of
Uh,
where I'm at.
Yeah, and I think Otani has made it clear that he wants to win. And so he goes to the Dodgers, and right now, not only did he get paid, he's on right now has to be the favorite to win the World Series next year, right? Like, I mean, who looks better on paper right now than the Dodgers?
Right,
I
but you
know
know
they
what? Come playoffs, they typically always fall short.
Yeah. Well, we will see. I mean, baseball's still really far away, but it's an interesting story. It's obviously we knew he was going to land in a major market that was a good team. That's basically what he was alluding to the entire time, where they were like, is he going to go to free agency? Is he going to resign? Blah, blah, blah. But he just literally just moved a couple streets away, probably just to, or probably didn't even have to change his house, right? Because they're both in LA, even though it's technically Anaheim. But
Right. But
uh
this really helps them. So last thing on this, it really helps them not reach the luxury tax where they're going to be. They are over a certain point where it's going to mess with their draft situation, but the Dodgers can still spend um, a good amount of money this offseason before they reach their threshold, even with the Ohtani. But with the Ohtani, only taking X amount of money a year, that really helps them that they can continue to get better and more players. So, I mean, the Dodgers, they're going to be the front runners. They're going to be expected to win. The Yankees loaded up as well in this offseason. It should be a Dodgers Yankees. It should be, but as you've seen, these playoffs, things have been happening. It doesn't take long. Teams can go in slumps. Players can get hot, and you just like make the playoffs. Anything can happen. And you
Well,
saw it this year. You saw it this year. I
we
mean,
saw with the Orioles, right?
who
Like,
expected it to be Rangers oh my gosh, why am I blanking? Uh oh my gosh, what was the MLB? See, I don't even know. I don't even know. I can't even remember. It was that unmemorable for me. Um but
I really can't. Who the fuck did the Rangers play in the World Series?
was it
Oh,
the
the
Phillies?
Diamondbacks.
No. Was it?
The Diamondbacks, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was the Diamondbacks. Yeah.
I'm
No.
literally looking it up.
Jesus,
That
Moses. Regardless, that's my point. It was supposed to be a certain teams, and like the Dodgers Yankees, you're going to get great ratings because they loaded up this year. But I, the Yankees, they have to they have to do something in the postseason. Same with the Dodgers. I mean, the Dodgers should not have gotten beaten. The Yankees, I could see them fumbling last year, but the Dodgers should have won the World Series again this year, and they didn't. So moving
Yeah,
on.
and it was the Diamondbacks, and it was literally November 1st, so like a little over a month ago, and we already forgot about it, which also proves how shit of a World Series that was, because I remember talking about how uninteresting it was. And it
Yeah,
was
I
so
remember we talked.
uninteresting, a month later, we can't remember who fucking played it. Like, that that proves our point right there. Because
Well,
I
also, I mean,
also blanked and I was trying to Google it.
we have other things going on. So who played in the
True.
Super Bowl? I don't remember. Was it?
Speaking
Just kidding. Just kidding. Just
we'll
kidding. Just
never
kidding.
speak of it again. We'll never speak of it again. But speaking of things that are better left forgotten, Casino, let's talk about Draymond Green, your favorite NBA player.
I
Uh
can't. I can't.
so he was indefinitely suspended after striking Yusef Nurkic in the face, because apparently high-level athletes, when they fall, they spin with just their fist out, which was totally an accident. Like, he didn't mean to do that, right? Like, that's just how you fall naturally, is by wildly swinging just one arm into a fist into somebody's face.
I
Like,
didn't. So I didn't save it, but I should
ugh.
have and send it to you. Somebody made uh, a little snip video of it. I don't even know what they're called. Reels, gifs, whatever. Something.
You're very tech savvy.
I'm very
Tech
yes.
savvy.
Yes, I am. But they did it where it was just Green on constant loop, like turning around and like swinging his arm, and they put it to metal music. And I was like, this is fucking fantastic. It's like a mosh pit. And I was like, oh, that's solid. So
This
I remember that day. So I couldn't be on, or I had to leave early or whatever it was. Did you tell the people how much I hate Green? Did you explain my frustration with them, or
No, I didn't even get to it because
okay?
I had to leave to go pick up my son. So we
Green
didn't.
is one of he's
Yeah.
my top three least favorite players to ever. I would have to think of the other two, but I know for sure top three least favorite players to ever play the NBA. He is dirty, and there's a point where, as I've told you off air, it's cute. It's cute and it's funny when you're kicking people in the nuts accidentally. Like that. That's silly. See, it made you laugh, right?
Yeah.
It's silly. It's funny to watch. But there's a difference when you are in practice and you're blatantly walking up to your teammate, punching him in the face and knocking him out, giving him a concussion, I guarantee. And that's assault, first off.
Yeah.
I don't
Well, I
care
mean, yeah.
however you put it in your teammates or whatever, and you're frustrated, whatever. And then this year you have him and it's not like it was like a choke and then he like dropped him, like pulled off. He was choking him and people are trying to rip him off of the dude. And the dude's like, I don't remember who it was, but he's like trying to like breathe. Draymond Green legitimately could have killed the dude if he did not let go, if they did not get him to let go. And with this one, he knew what he was doing. He was blatantly just swinging his arms around. Like, it gets to a point.
We lost Casino again. But I get I get what Casino's saying, and I agree. Obviously, it would be a different scenario or situation or circumstances if it wasn't a player who was known for doing this and has done this many times in the past. And not only has done this many times in the past, but has started to do it more frequently. So not only is he now doing something that he has repeatedly done in the past, but now he is not
Damn, it
only
must be my
doing
end.
it
I don't know.
more, it doesn't matter. But I was just saying the
Where did I get cut
circumstances and
off?
the person doing it. Well, you got cut off. I don't know. But I'm saying I'm agreeing with you. And it's also the circumstances of this player repeatedly being in these situations no other player is. So you lose all benefit of the doubt. You lose all like pomp and circumstances, right? And it's just one of those things where you, again, repeating the same scenario or situations over and over again and then acting like it's just happenstance and it was accidental and all this kind of stuff, where it's just like, maybe if this was a player that had never done this before, you would just give him the benefit of the doubt and be like, oh, what an unlucky way to fall, right? Like, oh my god, I can't believe, like, what a. And if he came out afterwards and just profusely apologized and again had no history of doing this, it wouldn't even be a topic, right? It would just be like, oh, that was a weird, like, that was just weird. Like, it'd be a clip that was passed around and be like, look at how this guy fell. Doesn't that suck? And then we would move on.
And obviously, he probably in your scenario, I mean, if they didn't have prior things, it might have just been a flagrant one.
Yeah, he wouldn't even be suspended, probably wouldn't even be fined. And again, afterwards, the player would be like, I can't believe I did that. I apologize. I said I was sorry to the guy. I went to the locker room, and it would just be a non-issue. But again, the issue with Draymond Green is it's repeated offenses that are getting more and more frequent. And then after the fact, it's the complete just dismissal of any type of blame whatsoever. Just like throwing your hands up and being like, what do you want from me, guys? I was falling. You just want me to fall on my face? Like, that was an accident. And then it's just like, how? How was that an accident for you, a guy who does this type of shit frequently? Like, it's not. And again, the past couple seasons, Draymond Green has got less productive, but he's still very valuable to this team in that the offense of the Golden State Warriors kind of still centers around him and kind of goes through him. But this season,
We
he's,
talked about it last year. At what cost, though, man? At what cost?
yeah. Well, that's, yeah, I think we've hit the point of diminishing returns, not only talking about this, but just of Draymond Green being on this team, where it's just like, you can't have a guy who averages 10, 5, and 5. What is it
Sorry.
on your court, who will also probably miss half the season if it's for injuries because he's getting older, or if it's because he is just a menace, not only against other teams, he's been a menace to players on his own team. So now, and then again, the elephant in the room is, it's like, oh, well, now that it's 2023, we have to seriously look and have a serious discussion about mental health. And then it's just like, yeah, we do, But that also doesn't mean the person that we think has mental health issues just gets to be a fucking maniac. And we just go like, oh, well, I mean, he's a maniac, but he has mental health issues. It's just like, then address the problem and stop letting him be a danger to other people around him. Like this fucking, like it's like the homeless crisis in the world where it's just like, well, we need to help these homeless people. And then everybody's like, yeah, we do. And then it's just like, yeah, but we're not gonna. And then when they do something crazy, it's just like, oh, well, I mean, we knew that was gonna happen, but like, we need to help him. And then just continuing not to help. It's just like, yeah, no shit. Like he needs help. He needs to get help. But the solution is not being like, he needs help. Okay, go play an NBA bat. It's just like, it's counterproductive to everything.
Yeah.
It's like he should. There's rumors that he only gets suspended for 10 games this season. If that's the case, like, then this is now the NBA's problem. He should legitimately be suspended. I don't even think I'm being.
And that's just and if they do that, that's just piggybacking off the whole Ja Morant thing and not getting a substantial thing as well.
Oh yeah, like
So
not a solution to the problem.
that's just gonna compound.
Yeah, he should legitimately be suspended the rest of the season.
When you
Like,
said
send a fucking
we said that
message.
about Ja Morant too, and it's not gonna happen.
Ugh.
Sorry, early where I just started laughing uncontrollably there for a minute there. It was because of what you sent and then what you said. So the other day in the guy's chat, and then you just said diminishing returns. That was literally my head just went diminishing.
Oh, the Community Christmas episode, the best
It's so good.
holiday episode in television
I think
history.
you reached a diminishing returns on the sexiness.
What's the diminishing return?
What's a diminishing return?
But Casino. That is actually, I didn't even catch that. Good. I literally said
I
that
was
less than 24 hours ago.
I was about to cry.
But speaking of diminishing returns, Casino, let's talk about our week 15 picks. And when we talk about diminishing returns, let's talk about the Chargers' former head coach, and not only former head coach, former GM, who were both.
It's about fucking time.
Brandon Staley was fired this morning after and let me check my glasses here that I'm not wearing. Is this correct, Casino? Did the Chargers lose 63-21 to the Las Vegas Raiders last night?
Yeah.
Is that true?
I mean, sadly, we both picked the Chargers.
I know.
But you know what? To our credit, we off air, we were like, something has to be done if the Chargers don't win this game. If they don't win this game, something's gonna have to be done. Like, that's what we were talking about. That's what we knew we meant when we were saying, this is their last chance. And it finally happened. They finally got the coaches fired, the GMs fired. Like,
I was literally going to say fire Brandon Staley if this was a close game and the Chargers still somehow won. Like the Raiders just lost a game 6 days ago or 4 days ago, 3-0. They just lost a game 3-0, and then they blow you out by 42 points. Like, also, if Brandon Staley should have been fired immediately after the game for this quote, a quote I have not sent you, but a quote I'm going to say word for word right now that he legitimately said, again, after a game he just lost 63-21. Here's the quote. You can look at any great coach that's ever coached in this league. Sometimes games like this happen. Again, implying right there that you're a great coach after losing a game where you trailed at halftime 42-0. Are you fucking insane?
I mean,
are you insane?
Even with the bad coaches, you don't see it like that.
No,
often.
This is like literally Hugh Jackson territory. Remember where he was on the Browns and they did the Hard Knocks with the Browns, where he's literally at the table, like saying to other coaches, like, oh, when you're in my seat, like, you know how tough it is and you have to just listen to the head coach and all this kind of stuff. He was saying that to a table of coordinators who had all been head coaches in the league that had better records than him as a head coach. Like the lack of self-awareness some of these head coaches have, like
Right.
you have to be out of
And
your
so
fucking mind.
so it wasn't just Brandon Staley, but also the GM Tom Telesco. He's out as well. He needed to go. Um, they both should have been not even on the Chargers side organization starting this season. I
No.
thought they both should have been fired the end of last season, if not before that. Um, so that leaves Gift Smith coming in as interim coach. And I kind of want to see, just like what happened with the Raiders. I want to see if the Chargers, you know, actually pull their head out of their ass a little bit and win a couple games that they're not expected to win
Yeah.
after this, because that was the issue.
I'll tell
Right?
you what, after
I'm very interested.
after what we've seen with Antonio Pierce with this Raiders
Oh
team
yeah.
with a rookie quarterback,
Uh-huh.
like let's see how he finishes at the end of the season. I know they just lost a game 3-0, but again, he's been on the job for a month and he loses a game 3-0 and then wins a game 63-21. So if he can find some sort of middle ground between those two things, like the players look like they are playing with him or playing with him. Yeah. Look like they are playing for him and look like they have this fire and intensity they didn't have with Josh McDaniels. So if Antonio Pierce gets a off season to kind of, mold these guys into what we've seen the potential for them to be, then this Raiders team, I'm not saying they're going to be Super Bowl champions, but I am saying they can be a thorn in the side of AFC West powerhouse Kansas City Chiefs. And then they could be right there in the mix with the Broncos. And obviously they're better than the Chargers. So I would say let's see how the season progresses, but especially if this Raiders team that was a dumpster fire 2 months ago, if they sneak in as a wild card team, like I think if this is a wild card team or if they barely miss on the wild card, like give Antonio Pierce a 2-3 year contract and just see what he can do with this team. I mean, again, we've said it before. This Raiders team has legit, like, best player at their position players. Like Max Crosby, they have Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs, when he's, at his peak, can be the best running back in the league. Like they legitimately have pieces on this Raiders team that are better pieces than a lot of other teams have. Like, I mean, would you rather be the Raiders with these guys or, the Panthers? Right? Like you'd rather have the 3 Raiders players than every player on the Panthers. So, but that casino being said,
Right.
let's segue this into the Bill Belichick rumors.
I mean, we're gonna have to speed it up. My kid's coming up, and you got to get out of here too. So let's just briefly hit that.
Well, my wife is picking up my son, so I have a little bit.
I've got to go because my kid's
okay
just got up, and he's gonna need to be fed again.
So let's
so Bill Belichick
picks. Yeah, do your Bill Belichick.
Quick thing on Bill Belichick. Apparently, there's reports out there that after the loss to the Colts game overseas, that he is going to be replaced as head coach starting next year. But like I said, they're going to let him play out the remainder of this season. And then him and Kraft are going to split ways, aka he's going to be fired. That's not 100% confirmed. That's just the scuttlebug. And I think it's justified at this point. No matter how good of a defensive guy, and you could have even been better if you didn't lose your 3 top defensive players, in week 3 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
That this defense could have legitimately been where I said top 5, top 4 defense in the league all year, but still you can't fumble this quarterback situation as bad as you did and expect to still be on as a head coach. I mean, Malik Willis now, who I was hoping was going to be, at least a very good backup for this team, and somebody that we can progress. Like he's basically like a smaller Lamar Jackson. That's how his play style is. And well, guess what? he's going to go hang out with his buddy and his former teammate Lamar Jackson because he just got traded, or he got picked up now by the Ravens, so he's over there now. So Belichick
Yeah.
won't be gone at the beginning of the season.
Do
Is
you
my
think?
guess.
Do you
I think it's
think
true.
the reason the scuttlebutt on the interwebs is also that the Chargers fired not only their general manager but their head coach because now they can go to Belichick and be like, "You can be in charge of player personnel
No,
and
they
our
were.
head coach."
If they do that, Belichick's going to be out of there in a couple of years anyway because he does not draft offensive players. So
Yeah, but I don't think he would take a job where he doesn't have that control.
no, and I don't think he's going to not have. I think he's going to go for a head coaching spot. He's
Yeah.
going to. He wants to beat that record. So
Or maybe he takes a year off like a Sean Payton did and goes to TV and just kind of feels it out and see if there's a really
you
good.
really want to listen to Bill Belichick on TV?
I kind of do. Did you see him on College
What?
Game Day? Did you see him on College Game Day? He's pretty fucking good at television. I kind of like Bill Belichick as a
The
TV
football has been
personality.
thrown. The wide receiver has
But
caught the
no,
football.
when you listen to him, like they did those NFL Films things where he's talking about Lawrence Taylor or like the history of the NFL or whatever, he fucking knows his shit
Oh,
and
he
he's
knows his
really
shit. Like he can
entertaining
tell
to
you a
listen to.
specific play of a certain game that happened 60 years ago.
Yeah. So I'm kind of into it. I
No, I
kind of
feel
want
it.
to see him go to
All right,
TV.
let's pick it
All
up.
right. Let's go to our picks casino. We will do rapid fire.
Woo!
And we will just give me your reasoning and then we'll just go back and forth. So last night, obviously, we both picked the Chargers. Great start. On Saturday, we have 3 games this week, a morning, an afternoon, and a night game that starts with the Minnesota Vikings at the Cincinnati Bengals. Josh Dobbs has been benched. It will now be Nick Mullins, I believe, the Vikings quarterback versus the Bengals superstar, whose name I can't even. Browning, thank you. Who you got in this one, Casino? 7-6 Vikings at 7-6 Cincinnati.
I'm gonna go with my Super Bowl pick, Bengals.
That is also who I'm picking. That is shocking to me. I thought you would go Vikings.
My boy
But
Dobbs is sitting.
I just really like what I saw from the Bengals team with their with Browning, and then they also had that backup running back who went off in that last game, and then the Vikings literally scored 3 points. Next up we have if my thing will
Steelers
load,
Colts.
7-6 Pittsburgh Steelers at the 7-6 Indianapolis Colts. Who you got for this one, Casino?
Colts.
This was also my reaction to that game because this is a game the Colts 100% should win, but the Steelers being fucking weird this season will win this game like 13-10.
Yeah.
And we'll be like, how the fuck did we not pick the Steelers? Next up, maybe one of the games of the weekend, the 7-6 Denver Broncos at the 9-4 Detroit Lions. Are you going with your other Super Bowl pick here?
I am, because they need a bounce back game.
I am not liking what I've seen from the Lions the past 2 weeks.
No, that's totally fair. They need a bounce back game, and they may not get it, but I'm going to go with them.
I wrote the Lions. I crossed it out. I put the Broncos. I'm going with the Broncos for this game. Next up, now we move to the Sunday games. Falcons at Panthers. Falcons 6-7. Panthers a dismal 1-12.
Every time I pick the Falcons, they lose. So I'm going to pick the Falcons, and let's get that Panthers win. So Falcons.
Falcons, the only games they have won this season have been in division. This is an in-division game, so they will wipe the floor with them. Next up, Casino, dare I say, sneaky, interesting game. The 5-8 Chicago Bears at the 8-5 Joe Flacco led
I like
Browns.
Flacco.
Shockingly, I'm going with the upset pick of the Bears.
That's
like
fine.
what I've seen with the Bears. I think everybody good on the Browns is injured. I think their defense was great, but everybody on this team is fucking injured. So I'm going with the Bears. I liked what I saw last week, and I think
I do got to go. I also got it. I forgot I have a telehealth appointment, so I just got to go through them.
Okay, next up, 6-7 Bucks at 6-7 Packers.
Packers.
Packers, I agree with you. Next up, Jets at Miami Dolphins.
I'm going Dolphins because it's in Miami.
It is in Miami. Next up, the shockingly interesting to watch 5-8 Giants at the 6-7 Saints.
6-7 Saints.
I am actually going.
I'm going
Giants.
that one because I have family going to that game.
Oh shit! I'm actually going Giants because I like what I've seen from the Giants. That also still means
I've got to cheer for my family who's Saints.
Next up, the CJ Stroud less, who is still in concussion protocol, Houston Texans at the Tennessee Titans.
Sorry. Which one was that one? I'm sorry.
The Texans at the Titans.
Texas at the Titans. Ooh. Texans. I like CJ Stroud still.
Yeah, he's out this game.
Oh, Titans then. Titans. Sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, I am also picking the Titans because we've seen the Texans without CJ Stroud. They were the second worst team in the league last year. Next up, Kansas City Chiefs at your New England Patriots casino.
I'm going to go the Patriots because I think I want to see the Chiefs lose to the Pats, and I really think that the Mahomes thing is going to fuck with his head.
Oh, I love it. I love that pick. I'm not doing it, but I love it. I'm going Chiefs. But next up, 49ers at the
blowout of the week.
I also agree that this will be a 40 burger and the 49ers will continue to be everybody's media darling. Next up, Commanders at Rams, which I feel like will be a sneaky, interesting, fun watch.
Interesting, but Rams, I like how they've been playing lately. They're gonna smoke them.
True, and I am also terrified to see this Rams team in the playoffs if they have to play my Eagles. Yeah. Next up, game of the week casino, the 10-3 Dallas Cowboys at the 7-6 Buffalo Bills.
I'm going Bills on this one because this is their season.
Yes, I agree. I am actually going Cowboys because I think they're a better team, but it's also on the road. So I think the Bills will win, but I knew you would pick the Bills. So I'm doing reverse jinx on the Cowboys to lose
fuck off your
for
reverse
Bills
jinx.
to win. Next up, Sunday night, the Baltimore Ravens at the 8-5 Jacksonville Jaguars.
Picking the Ravens.
10-3. I am also picking the Ravens because you know my disdain for this Jaguars team. Next up, casino, all comes down to this. Monday night, Philadelphia Eagles at the Seattle Seahawks. 10-3 Philly, 6-7 Seattle.
Philly needs this one, so I see they get it done. But it's going to be close.
This is the Eagles season in a game. If they lose this game, the sky is falling. Hit the panic buttons. The season's over. That will be my mindset. The Eagles need this game. I'm not going reverse jinx because it has not worked. I'm picking the Eagles to win close, but I still think they will win handily, even though the score will look close. All right. That is our Week 15
Bye, everybody.
Yeah, we're out of here. We'll be back next week. Have a great weekend. This is the Only Sports Podcast. I'm Will. That's Casino over there. Bye.